Well, greetings to you. Welcome to this episode of Just a Few. My name is Patrick Antoine. Thank you for joining me here on a platform that allows me the opportunity to provide biblical responses to questions from people like you. If you have a question and you'd like for me to attempt a response to that question, please use the email address on the screen. I'd prefer if you send the question there and I'll try to provide you the response as soon as I can. Today's question is one which focuses on what appears to be conflicts or contradictions in the gospel accounts. There are 4 gospel accounts, and sometimes you find incidents or persons mentioned in more than one account. And there are times when it looks as if what one writer says contradicts with what another writer says. And you need to look very carefully to consider, is this really a contradiction? So today's question is along those lines. Let me read the question and try to provide my response as soon as possible. And the question is, was Barabbas a thief or a murderer? And of course, Barabbas is the person who was set free in lieu of Jesus. The Jewish people asked for Barabbas to be set free by Pilate, who had as governor the prerogative to release one prisoner at the Jewish Passover feast, that Pilate could have given a pardon to anyone. And he was suggesting that Jesus be pardoned by the Jewish people. And the Jewish people said, no, we want Barabbas to be pardoned instead. And the different gospel accounts present different statements regarding the background of Barabbas, and that is what has given rise to the question. Let me say that when you look at the Gospels or things in the Bible, before we, and I'm not saying the questioner has arrived at this conclusion, because I get the impression you're just asking, it's a polite inquiry, it's a simple question, which I'm going to answer. But sometimes we read the New Testament and we see apparent contradictions. Now, if I, for instance, say we have 2 witnesses to an incident, and one person says in this motor vehicle accident, it was a red car, and then someone else comes and gives evidence and they say it was a Toyota. Is that a contradiction? No, both could be true. Not because it's a red car means it can't be a Toyota. It's just different perspectives and different details given in by 2 different persons. And what you need to do is to bring all the details together, and you'll have a clearer picture of what actually was the vehicle. So let me present all 4 accounts of the Gospels, because all 4 writers provided us some information on Barabbas. And so Matthew says in Matthew 27:16, and at that time they had a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So Matthew said he was a notorious prisoner. Mark says in Mark 15:7, and there was one named Barabbas who was chained with imprisoned with his fellow rebels. They had committed murder in the rebellion. What rebellion? Well, of course, he assumed people who was a Roman audience Mark is writing to would have known what rebellion it was all about, because it was against the Romans. Luke says in Luke 23:19 about Barabbas, who had been thrown into prison for a certain, here again, rebellion made in the city and for murder. Finally, John in John 18:14 says, then, this is the Jewish people, when Pilate says, should I free Jesus? Then they all cried again, saying, not this man, but Barabbas. Now, Barabbas was a robber. So you look at this and you're wondering, what exactly was Barabbas? So again, I just want to stress something I've written here. Whenever one comes across varying accounts such as these, the general rule is that the information provided must be interpreted as being complementary and not contradictory. You make use of all the information provided to form a composite picture. Now, of course, if one person had said Barabbas was a Jewish man and another person said he was a Gentile woman, you can't reconcile that. It can't be both at the same time. So that is a contradiction. But if you have things that could be harmonized without one negating the other, then it's not a contradiction. It's complementary. You take on board all the information. So let me answer the question by saying, from these different accounts, what we can conclude is that Barabbas was a dangerous criminal who had been convicted of rebellion, murder, and attacks against the Roman occupying forces, which was common in those days. There were constant plots to get rid of the Romans. So Barabbas, was a leader among the Jewish revolutionaries who led plots against the Romans. That word in the Gospel according to John, where John says Barabbas was a robber, it doesn't mean he was like a petty thief who breaks into houses and so on. No. The type of robber you're talking about was more like a revolutionary who would raid and attack Roman installations and so on, and they would kill all the Romans and loot everything there as part of their rebellion against the Roman forces. That's the type of robber he was. So he was a thief, in that sense, a revolutionary person who would destroy and plunder anything they can from the Romans, but he was also a murderer. And there's no contradiction there. A person could be both. So my name is Patrick Antoine. I hope these 4 references and what each writer was saying about Barabbas helps you to have a composite picture of this dangerous individual who the Jews said they preferred him to be set free than Jesus himself. So until the next time, grace and peace be multiplied to you.